Hey! Hey there! Today I'm going to show you my ultimate Luna build for Battle Concert and Battle Artist, as well as talk more about how it works. Ultimate Luna just dropped and has been attracting attention because of how good her trailer was and how good she looked in the previous dev livestream. And since the devs also dropped some new trigger modules in Mutant Cell, I thought that I might also take a look at my Noise Surge build. However, not everything is actually good, to be honest with you guys, now that I got a better look at her new modules. Like mentioned before, I already pre-built Luna and I really didn't change anything at all except for a few modules and trigger module for Luna after testing what I need to know about. Let's start by talking about Battlefield Concert and her abilities. I really like this module for Luna mainly because of how it looks and because of how much DPS you are dealing. Using this module will convert all her abilities into tech, so you will be going into tech reactor and tech power ratios. First is her passive ability. The passive ability is basically telling us how to gain her custom resource. At max stacks, you are able to enhance an ability each with their own unique enhanceability except Noise Surge, just like how her other Descendant modules work. In this case, you will get the same buff called Fever Time that deals the same damage, has the same base range, has the same duration no matter which ability. The only thing that's different is the effect based on the ability that's enhanced. The Fever Time buff also increases our fire rate and caps it to 666 RPM, increasing our DPS drastically. Her first ability equips Luna with her unique weapon. This increases and uses her movement speed, not sprint speed, by 40%. It has a base skill power damage as well as 30% of your weapon damage. The weapon damage here actually is just anything that is considered as weapon attack: faction damage, elemental damage, and firearm attack. Fire rate will also increase the unique weapon's fire rate, but it is capped to 666 RPM even when enhanced. Weak point, critical hit, multi-hit doesn't work. Weapon cores also does not work, and it includes the sprint speed core and grappling cooldown reduction core. The MP reduction here is not that worrisome, and you absolutely need to shoot your unique weapon even when you're not hitting the notes, because shooting with the note only limits your damage intervals. Not shooting as soon as you can will also make your fire rate increase a useless stat, and you'll be losing a significant chunk to your DPS. Luna's second ability will grant you 30% skill critical hit rate multiplicatively and 30% skill power modifier per debuff for a maximum of 90%. The bonus to skill power modifier does not show up on your tooltip, and it is applied similar to how Albion Cavalry Gun's critical hit rate is applied. Hitting an enemy while the red buff is active will inflict a debuff that reduces the enemy's movement speed. Enhancing this ability will grant you Fever Time while upgrading the debuff. Instead of reduced movement speed, it now stuns the enemies when you hit the enemy with the Fever Time damage. Luna's third ability will grant you a buff that deals an AoE debuff that reduces the defense of affected enemies by 10%. Enhancing this ability will grant Fever Time and will now increase the enemy's damage taken by 12% when hit by Fever Time's damage. This is actually very valuable, especially if you're with other people. Her fourth ability will decrease your skill power by 8% but will split your attack into 3, damaging 3 different, emphasis on different, targets at once. Enhancing this ability will grant Fever Time and will now also decrease the enemy's attack when you hit the enemy with the Fever Time damage. This ability will make mobbing a bit easier, just like High Voltage on crack. The rotation is actually quite simple for this module. All you need to do is cast your first ability, cast your abilities once to receive the buffs, and shoot to fill your gauge up. The only ability you want to enhance is your blue ability. This is the most valuable enhance ability compared to the other two. Doing this rotation will guarantee that you receive the buffs from all your abilities, dealing all the debuffs from all your abilities, while also dealing more damage because of the 12% damage taken increase to the enemies. But you have to hit the enemy with Fever Time damage to upgrade the debuff. This rotation is optimal because remember, we also gain more damage the more debuff you apply from your first ability. Now, shooting while buffing yourself will be difficult for some because you need to hit the notes, and shooting will also trigger the notes. You need to stop shooting first before buffing yourself. When in enhanced mode, you can use all your abilities without incurring the cooldown as long as you put small intervals between casts. You will also not incur the mana reduction while missing the notes. The chances of you incurring the ability cooldown is higher when you shoot and cast your abilities at the same time. This is my Battlefield Concert build. We are going with duration here because we want our buffs to last longer for comfort and quality of life. This also increases our Fever Time duration. Fever Time actually is our main damage dealing buff, and increasing duration will also increase our average shot per second. Aside from that, duration mods will also increase the duration of the debuffs. Since Luna is a crit Descendant, we are going with 4 crit modules. The problem is that no matter what we do, we cannot reach the 100% crit rate cap because the crit rate buff isn't additive anymore. But that doesn't mean we're going crit rate on Reactor. Tech power boost ratio and crit damage is still the best combo for the Reactor. Like Noise Surge, we will also be using both maximized modules, but you are free to use the focus mods if you miss your nodes. But with the high duration, missing nodes and incurring the cooldown isn't as harsh even when using both maximized modules. You have one free slot here. You can use range module here to increase the damage range from fevered time, making it easier to apply the enhanced debuff. But I typically just get close against bosses. Range is not needed for the normal shots because it already has a very long range, as you can see here. You can also use increased HP if you're struggling with survival, MP Collector if you're struggling with mana, Veteran's Tactics or cooldown module in case you miss a node. But my choice will be Potent Collector. This will help us fill the gauge and be able to be in enhanced mode a bit faster. Even though you don't acquire custom resource in enhanced mode, you are able to fill it up pretty quick with Potent Collector. This will also help our mana utility because you don't lose mana when you're in enhanced mode. Now you might be wondering why I'm using Power Beyond. Gap in Time doesn't actually work with this module. That's because you are not dealing damage with her abilities. You are dealing damage through the unique weapon. Gap in Time only works on the fevered time damage. We are using Enlightened Mage and we can easily stack the buffs by following the skill rotation as demonstrated earlier. Now I haven't forgotten about the weapon damage from her first ability. And the best weapon to further increase our damage is if we use the weapon with the highest base attack, and that's Atoms. All we need to do is to increase attack and bonus elemental damage as much as we can. We are going with Gun Barrel here because we get more value out of the bonus elemental attack than the fire rate due to the high base attack. If you've watched this video, fire rate is a lot worth when the percentage is high. In this case, the maximum fire rate we can get is only 30% with Shell Crusher. Sharp Precision Shot doesn't work, and we're not going to be using Shell Crusher. Some of you, especially new players, might ask, why not Secret Garden since she's now tech? Weapon abilities doesn't work when using Luna's unique weapon. For Arcade Tuning, we are going to take every critical nodes as well as the duration. We are still going to be using non-attribute cohesion here. Not Arcade Chain Catalyst because this is only going to be good for non-crit Descendants because this scales off of attribute power ratio. The lesser power ratio you have, the lesser value you'll get from this mutant cell. Non-crit Descendants will get the better value because they will be using amplification modules which increases their attribute power ratio. However, you can use Arcade Chain and Void Erosion Purge since Void Erosion gives 270% attribute power ratio. We are not using RK Maximization because this only boosts our base critical hit rate. It will only be giving us a very tiny amount of critical hit rate. For inversion, we will be using Deploy Resonance Device just for the extra duration. The next module will be the Battlefield Artist. This basically just turns Luna into a Gunner Descendant with supporting capabilities. Her first to third abilities basically just gives Luna different types of weapon buffs that's activated when you use your fourth ability. Her passive ability is very simple. Successful note hit will fill up one gauge bar up to a maximum of 8. Luna's first to third ability is basically just the same, except that each gives Luna and her allies different types of buffs. Using abilities 1 to 3 will apply Explosive Inspiration to the enemies. Explosive Inspiration is a debuff that deals an AoE bonus damage based from the weapon damage. This works similar to Serena's bonus damage depending on her HP, but in this case, it's based off of Luna's maximum shield. The maximum additional damage you'll get is 150%, and you'll achieve that with 37,500 shield. My problem with this is that the bonus damage has a 0.3 second downtime on the same enemy. You also need to hit the enemies with the Explosive Inspiration debuff first before the bonus damage is applied. With this, you'll need to keep casting her first, second, and third abilities for the bonus damage. This will fill your gauge up, requiring you to use your fourth ability. The issue is that, rather than focusing on shooting, you'll now be forced into a dance mechanic resulting in significant DPS downtime. You cannot cancel the animation as well. What's worse is that the bonus damage works on some weapon abilities like the Last Dagger, while it doesn't on Atoms and Malevolent. There's more. The buffs doesn't apply until you use your fourth ability. You can combine the effects and have different buff combinations depending on what the weapon needs. Example, Malevolent with multi-hit build doesn't need crit, so probably skip the crit buff. The Last Dagger will no longer need any crit module if you use one stack of crit buff. The way this is calculated is that the first stack will give the full bonus buff and the succeeding stacks will have reduced values. Refer to this example here. 8 stacks of critical buffs and items will give you 67% crit rate. The 0.5% is there because TFT probably truncated some numbers. You will not be receiving 0 or negative stack value if you go beyond 5 stacks. The minimum value is 1%. What's promising though is that the reduction does not apply to the other buffs. Example, I have 2 stacks of crit buffs and 6 stacks of red buffs. I am still able to get 22% crit rate and crit damage buff as well as 32% bonus to attack. For someone who knows how to calculate, you can probably figure out the best buff combination for the weapon you're using. But for people who just want the buffs, you can go 2 of each and YOLO on the last 2 stacks. Well, of course, if the weapon isn't a crit weapon, you can skip the crit buff. And if your weak point hit rate is high, go more into weak point than firearm attack. I actually really don't like this module on her. There are too many downtime and conditions before you can deal damage. If you want to support an ally using weapons, aggressive melody is a lot better because of the flat crit rate buff. This for me just feels a little too clunky and complicated for little to no return. So I didn't really build Luna using this module because I don't see any use case for this module. But if you really like to use Luna for gunning, this is my Luna Gunner build. For the free slot, you can either use Passionate Sponsor or Shot Focus. The goal here is to reach the cap bonus damage, so we go with shields. We are using range here for explosive inspiration. This has no range cap, so get as much range as you can for quality of life. For weapons, it's really up to you. The Last Dagger for bossing, Restored Relic, Albin Cavalry Gun or Malevolent for mobbing, and adjust the buff combinations based on the weapon you're using. For Noise Surge and her supporting build, refer to this video. Nothing really changed except use Gap in Time for Noise Surge. For supporting, use Circulation component for maximum mana. A lot of stuff was explained in that video as well, and hopefully it helps people figure out Luna a bit better. I was kinda hoping that the devs also buffed her old modules like Give Speed to Noise Surge and stuff. But since there were no buffs, there are no changes, even with the new Mutant Cell and Trigger modules. I just don't want to make this video longer for the same information as the last video. That's it for the video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!